All right, so today we are talking about statistics again. More specifically, measures of central tendency is our topic. So when you think about central, that means in the center, and tendency is where everything tends to go. So measures of central tendency, we want to see what's happening in the center. We're talking about average, and an average is a number representative of a group of data. So basically we're trying to find one number that's going to describe the entire set of data. And that's what an average does. We have four different averages. We have mean, median, mode, and mid-range. Okay. Now each average could be different, but all of them will lie somewhere near the middle of all the data, hence measures of central tendency. So we'll just take our first average here. It's called the mean. And this is probably what you're most commonly used to. So the mean is the sum of all data divided by the number of pieces of data. All right, add them all up, divide by how many there are. Now we have two different symbols for mean. Okay. One of them is x bar. So it's just a little x with a bar on top. And this is used when the mean of a sample is calculated. The other one right here, you've seen that before when we were doing the Greek numbers. This is read mu and is used when the mean of an entire population is calculated. Okay, so it all depends whether you're talking about a sample or a population. So if you were to find the average of all of the data you got from your project, would you use x bar or mu? X bar, because you took a 40-person sample of the entire school. Now if you asked every single person in the school, then you would use mu for the population. Okay? So here's the mean formula. And it's just a mathematical way of saying add them all up and divide by how many there are. Okay, so this is a sigma, capital S, and it means sum. Sum them all up. So add up all of your x values and divide by n, and n is the number of how many there are. Now this average is considered the balancing point of all the data. So if you were to put all the pieces of data on like a ruler or something, the mean would be the point at which all the pieces would balance. Okay, just balances them all. Now it is used to calculate the grades. Okay, your grades are calculated using your mean score. So basically we're trying to come up with one number that represents your grade. It represents all the scores you've got, and we give it to you as one number, as a 75% or whatever. Okay, so you're very familiar with this formula already. The other average we have is median. Now this is the piece of data that is in the exact middle of all the data. To be able to find this, though, the data must be ranked in order. Now, if there are an even number of pieces of data, there is no piece of data exactly in the middle then. Only with odd ones is there something exactly in the middle. So when it's an even number, okay, the median is going to lie exactly in between the two middle pieces. Okay, so you're going to have to take the average of the two pieces that are right in the middle. You're going to take the mean of the two pieces right in the middle. Now, when you do this, there's going to be an equal amount of pieces of data on either side of the median. The same number of pieces of data on the left, the same number of pieces of data on the right. Okay. Do you see how this is a measure of central tendency? Is it in the center of all the data? Yeah, it's in the dead center. And the median is oftentimes a better representation than the mean. Okay. The next one is called the mode. Maybe you feel a little bit like you're in 5th grade, because I think you learned them all then. My wife taught 5th grade math, so she taught some of this stuff. But mode is the piece of data that occurs the most. Okay, so the mode and the most. Another way of saying that is it has the highest frequency. So when you made those frequency distributions, okay, if your class size was 1 and you just listed the observed value, then you've already found your mode. It's the one with the highest frequency. Now, unlike modal classes, there can be only one mode. Sounds like a movie, right? There can be only one. What was that, Highlander? Something like that? All right. So there can only be one mode, meaning if there's a tie for the most, you say no mode. Okay? And that's what we say right there. All right. Mid-range. This is the halfway point between the highest and the lowest value. So it's like finding the mean using only the highest and the lowest value. So we go ahead and add the lowest and the highest together and then divide by the 2 pieces of data. And that's going to give you your mid-range. And do you see how this is a measure of central tendency? Because it splits the highest and the lowest right in the middle, so it's going to be in the center somewhere. Of the 4, which one is probably not the best use if we're talking central tendency? The mode. Right? Because if you have a lot of really high scores, okay, then it could be one of the high scores. And because it's a piece of data that occurs exactly the same, we know that doesn't always happen very often. So that's probably the most sketchy there. So ranked data, we already referred to this. This is data that has been put in order from lowest to highest. Sometimes we call it sorting, sort, ascending. Ascending would be lowest to highest. If we say sort descending, then we say highest to lowest. So Excel spreadsheets will be able to sort data for you, which is good. And your TI calculators can also sort data. All right. And one last box for you there. Percentiles. So percentiles divide a set of data into equal parts. Each percentile shows how many pieces of data are above and below it. Okay, so we basically take all the pieces of data and we split it up into hundreds. Okay, 100%. And the 78th percentile means that that piece of data is above 78% of all the data, and it's below 22% of all the data. Okay, and this is what you guys would get in your standardized test scores, right? It would tell you what percentile you were, and it's not your percentage. It doesn't tell you the score on the test. What it does is it compares you to every other person who took that test. So if you're in the 90th percentile, that means you scored better than 90% of all the other people taking that test. And 10% of people scored better than you. So that's where you fall. Now, within percentiles, we also talk about things called quartiles. And you can see the word quart right there. So these are fourths. So this is the 25th percentile, which is quartile 1, 50th percentile, which is quartile 2, or the 75th quartile, which is quartile 3. Okay. Now it turns out that 50th quartile, or 50th percentile, is also the median. Okay, because the median, half of the data will be above it, and half will be below it. So right there, the 50th percentile is 50% above, 50% below. Alrighty. So if we want to find the mean, median, mode, and mid-range of the following set of data. So first, to find the mean, we want to add all the pieces of data up and divide by how many there are. So it's just going to be 1 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5 divided by how many pieces of data do we have? 9. That's on the video.
Sweet.
I could edit it out.
That's cool. Future generations.
Yeah. All right. Notice the data doesn't have to be in order when you do this. So you just add it all up. And you want to make sure you hit enter first. Then divide by 9. We get 5.2 repeating. Okay. Next, for the median, here the data must be ranked. So we have to go through here, find the lowest, which is 1. Then the next highest is 3. Then there's another 3. Then a 4, 5, 6, 8, 8, and 9. Okay. Now if there's 9 pieces of data, this is odd, which means the median is going to be an actual piece of data. Okay. So what we can do here is start on each side and start working your way towards the middle, because there needs to be the same number on both sides. So 1 and 9, 3 and 8, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, and then both your fingers end up on the number 5. So number 5 is the median. Okay. You could also think there are 9 numbers divided by 2, which gives you 4.5. Okay, so there's 4.5 on the left, 4.5 on the right, which leads you right to the 5th number, right in the middle. All right, looking at the mode. Okay, we're looking for the one that occurs the most. So 3 occurs twice, and 8 occurs twice. Do any of them occur more than twice? Nope. And because there's a tie for the most, no mode. And our next one, mid-range. So for this one, we need to find the high and the low. So the highest piece of data is 9, and the lowest is 1. So all we have to do is take the average of these two numbers. So we get 9 plus 1 over 2. And we get 5 for our mid-range. Alrighty. Next, we're going to take a look at this next set of data, and it's getting a little bit bigger. And now I want to show you how you can use your calculator to find a couple of these things. Alright. So first I'll do the TI. TI-84. And we're working with statistics. So on your calculator, what button do you think you push?
Stat.
Stat. Very good. You can see it right there. Okay, so go ahead and push the stat button. And then you get a couple options. If we want to input data, then we just want to select edit. Okay. Now, if your thing is clear, then you're good to go. If you want to clear an entire list of data, you just scroll up till where you select L1, and then you push clear and it clears it all, and then just hit enter and it moves you down. Well, maybe yours is blank to start off with because you've never used this wonderful little tool. So now all you have to do is type in all your data. So we got 8, then you just hit enter, 2, 10, 17, 16, 1, 5, 9, 3, 10, 16, and 27. Okay. So just looking at this, we see L1, and this is data piece number 12. So that tells me there's 12 pieces of data. If you count them up, you'll find out that there are 12. Okay. If you go all the way up to the top, to L1, you'll notice now it puts it in a set notation. Okay. So all of our data now is in L1. Now let's go ahead and calculate a couple things here. Let's put it in order first. Let's rank this. So in order to rank this, you want to go stat again. And remember earlier I was talking about ranking. Another word for it is sorting. Sort A stands for sort ascending. Sort D stands for sort descending. So we want to sort ascending from least to greatest. And now it's asking you for some sort of input. So we want to sort a list. Now the list we want is L1. So if you look on your calculator, you can see an L1 right above the number 1. So you're going to hit second, 1, and that put L1 right here. Now when you hit enter, it's not going to be very exciting. It just says done. Okay. What that means is it did it. Let's go check that it did it. So how do we get back to our list? We hit stat and edit. And all the data is in order for you there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and use this to calculate a couple things. So if we want to calculate some statistics, go ahead and push stat again. And if we're calculating, we go over to calc. And because we're only dealing with one set of statistics, we want one var stats. Okay, so hit enter on one var stats. Now at this point, it's asking you for a list. So we could type in L1, L2, L3, whichever list of data you want to calculate the stats for. So you can actually put more than one list in. Now if you leave it blank, it's automatically going to assume that we're using L1. Okay, so we don't even have to type anything else in. We can just hit enter. And you should recognize that first thing there, X bar. X bar is your mean. So it's 10.3 repeating. Okay. Now there's a couple other things it gives you. This is the sum of x, so this is the sum of all the data, 124. Okay, don't worry about these next three. We're going to talk about those next time. N is 12, meaning there were 12 pieces of data. So if you did 124 divided by 12, you would get 10.3. If we keep scrolling down, we get a few other pieces of data. We have min x is 1, q1 is 4, med is 9.5, q3 is 16, max x is 27. So when you look at this, these are the low, the high, and your three quartiles. So right here, your median is 9.5. Okay. Now is 9.5 an actual piece of data here? No, it's not. Because there were an even number of pieces of data, 12, if we do 12 divided by 2, we get 6. So that means 6 pieces of data need to be on either side. So how's that going to work? Let's go back to our stats here, and let's look at our list. So if we want 6 pieces above, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that leaves us with number 9. And then 6 below, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Notice right in the middle would be between 9 and 10. Does that make sense? So 6 pieces of data get us up to 9, and then 6 pieces of data on the top start at 10. Okay, but the number right in the middle doesn't exist because it's even, so it's right between 9 and 10, which is 9.5. If you're doing this by hand, you would do 9 plus 10 over 2. Now, one thing the calculator doesn't give you is the mode. Okay, so for that you do have to still kind of look through there. And what do we think? What happened the most?
No mode.
No mode. Okay, there were 2 10s and 2 16s. So no mode. And for the mid-range, we'll get back to our stats here. It does give you the minimum and the maximum, but that's it. You have to find it on your own. So you're going to go 27 plus 1 over 2, which is 14. Okay, now let's use this data to talk about quartiles. So the quartiles again are Q1, that's the 25th percentile. We have Q2, which is the 50th percentile, also the median. And then we have Q3, which is the 75th percentile. Okay, so in the previous example, quartile 1 was the number 4. Okay. Now what that means is that 25% of the data is below this, and 75% of the data is above it. Okay. And what we're going to do to kind of show this is something called a box and whisker plot. And it's showing the percentiles. That's what we do here. Okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to take our lowest number right here at 1. And then it's going to go all the way up to our upper number, which is 27. And then it's going to place a box starting at quartile 1. So let's just kind of estimate where the number 4 would be. Somewhere in here, right? And then it's going to go up to the third quartile, which is at 16. It's a little more than halfway. Okay, so there's the number 4, there's 16. Then it's also going to show a line for our median at 9.5. And then it just connects the lowest to the box, and the box to the highest. Okay. So what it's showing us is 25% of the data falls right in here, 25% of the data falls in here, 25% of the data falls in here, and 25% of the data falls right in here. Okay. Now I want to show you how to do this on your calculator also, because it can do it. So this is something called a plot. We're plotting our data. So you can see in the calculator right here this thing called stat plot. So we're plotting statistics. So hit second stat plot. And you can do a couple different ones here. So on number 1, go ahead and hit enter. And you want to you can turn the plot off, you can turn the plot on. So go ahead and turn this plot on. And then you can choose what type. So push down once. And there's 6 different types you can do. Here you can just do a scatter plot. Here you can actually make a frequency polygon. Here you can make a histogram. And then here you can make a box and whisker plot. So now, if you push down, notice what it does. It jumps down to your different list. So push back up. We want to go to the right until we get to the scatter plot, or the box and whisker. Down here for mark, you can just change what you want the marks to look like. It doesn't really do anything. Now, we want to make sure when we push graph that it actually zooms into where our data is. So now you're going to push zoom and go down to Z-stat, zoom stat right there. So it's going to zoom in to where the statistics are. Change the window, and it gives you a nice box and whisker plot right there. Now if you hit trace, okay, it'll trace out exactly what we just drew. So you can see over here, the min x is 1, the quartile 1 is 4, the median is 9.5, quartile 3 is 16, and the max x is 27. All right. So just a couple quick questions here. Explain what it means to be in the 99th percentile. Let's say we're talking about a test. This would mean that you scored better than 99% of all others and lower than only 1%. Okay. And what percent of data is between the first and the third quartiles? What do you guys think? So between quartile 1 and quartile 2 is 25%. And between quartile 2 and quartile 3 is 25%. So the total there between 1 and 3 is 50%.